Hello everyone, Mystic Jade here, and welcome back to Mystic Jade's Tarot Corner. Today we are going to do the Decks for Life trend. That's currently going on, or maybe it's an old trend by now, I'm not so sure, but I know that I wanted to jump on the bandwagon, so here we are. I have 10 decks in front of me, all of them inside, except for this one. This one doesn't have a bag, but all of them are inside bags that I've made, except this one. And I'm just going to go through them really quick one by one and discuss a little bit why I consider them decks forever, and yeah, just a little bit about the deck and maybe my history with the deck. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to start with actually the Witch's Tarot. This deck was probably my second or third deck, possibly. I got it in 2021 when I very first started reading and collecting decks. And I should have grabbed the book. The book on this one is really nice. It's a very thick book. It's a hefty read, but it has some really great insight and correspondences. It just gives really some in-depth explanations of each card, and it's really a great book for a beginner. Now, this deck is really good for beginners as well. Of course, we would have death card on the bottom, okay? I guess I should have checked, or whatever. It doesn't matter. We're not doing a reading. Even if we were, the death card's the death card. Transformation. Here we go. But anyways, this deck is really pretty. The only thing I do wish is that it had a little bit more diversity. I believe this is supposed to be a depiction of Hecate. Not I believe, I know. This is supposed to be a depiction of Hecate. The art is really realistic looking, almost photorealistic, but obviously art. It's really pretty. I wish it had a little bit more diversity, but the imagery is pretty true to the Rider-Waite-Smith. It has some cards that are a little bit different, like this one. I believe this is the devil, but they consider it the shadow side in this deck, so some of them are a little bit different. But overall, it really keeps to the theming of the Rider-Waite-Smith. And yeah, I just really love the imagery. It's really beautiful. But like I said, it could use some diversity. I have quite a few decks here, so I'm not going to go through all the dragons. It's really pretty. I'm not going to go through every card here, but I'm going to do honorable mentions. Of course, we have Temperance. If you watched my very first episode of All Tea No Shade, that should be posted already, you would know already that Temperance in almost every deck is one of my absolute favorite cards. In this deck in particular, this is my favorite Temperance of all, because this is a depiction of Iris, and Iris is the very first goddess that I connected to as I was discovering myself and coming into my path as a witch. And I still very much connect to her. She's with me all the time. I talk to her. She talks to me. But I just love this depiction of her, and I love this card very much. This deck is the one deck that I have that no one else is allowed to touch or use, and I do not read it or use it for anyone else. This deck has only been used to read for me specifically. I felt this deck in the box. I felt the vibration of this deck. And since it has never been another feeling. So this is my deck. This deck and I are very, very bonded. I don't pick her up as often as I should. Four of Wands and the Magician. But an Eight of Pentacles. And this is why I'm connected to this deck, because it does things like this. Also in that video, I talk about my other favorite card in all of tarot that I work with all the time is the Eight of Pentacles. I usually have some version of Eight of Pentacles on my altar as a working card for me to help keep me motivated, help keep me going, and help to remind me that the grind is worth it. You know, in the end, it will all work out, and I'll have my shiny pentacles, and you know how the story goes. But my point is that it does things like that. It just drops the card out for me. I have picked this card out from the center of the deck, and I am not a center. I don't pull for the center. I don't like pulling the center, but I literally asked for this card. I said, can you please show me where the Eight of Pentacles is? And it said center, and I picked out the center card, and there we had the Eight of Pentacles. So that is how connected I am to this deck. So yeah, it's surprising to me that I'm even showing it on camera. It's been on camera before, but yeah, this is my sacred deck, and I'm going to stop repeating myself now, and we're going to move on to more of the beautiful and many decks that I have sitting here. And we're going to go about these in no particular order whatsoever. I'm just going to pick them up and go and talk about them a little bit. So this deck here is in one of my tarot sleeves. I've made all of these. I said that. Here I am repeating myself. Sorry, it's been a long day. As you can hear, my voice is also starting to go out. So this sleeve is actually made with 100% silk on the inside. Very traditional. I love it. And then shameless plug, all of my products have a pocket inside for a crystal or a sigil or anything that you would like to keep with your deck. I wouldn't suggest something so chunky, but it fits. Okay, moving on. It's not about my product. So this is the Tarot Emblemata, and it is a newer deck to my collection. I just got it for my birthday, and it's really pretty. I'm going to read the first little snippet of the preface on the book so that it is a better description of exactly where this deck is inspired, or what this deck was inspired by. And it says that this deck is an 83 card tarot deck comprised of the Renaissance emblems attributed to French painter, draftsman, woodcut artist, and engraver Bernard Salomon, illustrated in Claude Pardin's emblem book. Some words that I cannot pronounce. Claude Pardin's emblem book, these words, I'm not going to even try, in 1551. So these are based off of emblems found in a book. The Tarot Emblemata represents the evolution of emblem designs through history and their enchanting, transcendent, and universal power taking new form. So that is just really, I think it's really pretty. I think the message behind it, the inspiration behind it is really wonderful. I love the messages on the card. Just everything about this deck is really pretty. The linen texture is my absolute favorite. The way that it shuffles, the way it sounds, just everything about this deck. The rose gold gilding, like, it's just incredible. I am absolutely in love with this deck, and I have been picking it up all of the time. I've done some readings with it already, and this deck I know is just going to be a constant from my collection from here on out. It is just incredible. It's definitely not a beginner's deck. You definitely already have to have a fairly good understanding of the cards and their meanings. However, it's great for an experienced reader, and it really delivers nice messages. Okay, moving along here. We are going to go this way. Uh-oh, don't fall. So this bag here is full of my tea leaf cards. This bag doesn't have any pockets or anything like that, and it doesn't have like the nice soft lining like all of my bags have, but I just needed something simple and easy to reach my hand into, that the cards wouldn't get caught on, and that I could easily like pull them out in this manner. This is how that I like to use this deck. I typically don't fold it down. It's just for the matter of showing you what's inside, and how I keep the deck. But this deck probably shouldn't be in my forever collection because it's really mean to me. On a typical basis, it's very mean to me in particular. However, when I read for other people, it's fairly nice. So just a few of the cards. Oh, that's an awkward looking dog. I have not seen that one before. I really like using this deck. I like the way that I read with it. I like the reaching into the bag and all of that. And just, it has so many different messages in here that are just unexpected, a wide variety. The answers that you need are in this deck within this bag. It's wonderful. And okay, within this bag, and here we are, bag. Coincidence, but yeah, just lots of wonderful cards. And there's so many cards, like I'm going through this, I'm like, I don't even remember ever seeing a lot of these cards, and I use this all of the time. Maybe I need to find a better way of shuffling or something, I don't know. But yeah, just a little bit about these cards and how I use them. This deck also came with the months, and I don't think it had zodiacs. I would have the zodiacs in here. There's something else, seasons, that this deck also came with. But yeah, it's really cute. I like it. Good advice from a wise person. I mean, it's not cute. This deck is an asshole to me a lot of times. But yeah, so this is just another deck in my collection that I will always pick up, I will always have on my altar, and I will always use for readings because it is a wonderful, wonderful oracle deck. And there is a similar charm style deck coming out in September that I'm really excited about, and I can't wait to get my hands on as well. Okay, let's put this back. Let's see if I can keep this organized in a sense. Okay. So this next one, I don't quite remember what's in here. Oh, the glow-in-the-dark tarot. Okay, this one, I love this deck for doing darker readings. This is another product I made. The inside's really soft. I actually designed this fabric. Just some simple drawings, but it is a fabric that I drew and had printed and made a product of. Anyway, moving on. On to the tarot cards. So this deck is the glow-in-the-dark tarot. And they have to be charged in the light, and then you turn it off and they glow, and you know how glow in the dark works. But I like this deck when I am reading about attachments specifically. If somebody needs to know if they have an attachment, this is the deck that I ask. It's like very traditional. It is absolutely traditional Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, just done in glow in the dark. It's the same exact images, but for some reason this deck likes to let me know about attachments and why they're hanging around and what's going on. Sorry if you couldn't see that for a second, but yeah, this is a very traditional deck that I pick up all of the time, that I take with me to markets. I use it as a market display deck all the time, and yeah, just very simple, basic Rider-Waite-Smith glow-in-the-dark tarot, but it is one of my absolute favorites. And I love I'm a big texture person, and I really love that the glow-in-the-dark adds like a layer of texture. Like, can you hear it? I really, really love that. It feels wonderful in my hands. And it gives it that like linen feel without it actually being linen. And it just, for some reason all my shuffles have been catching like that today, but this is one of my favorite decks to shuffle. I find myself just sitting there shuffling it forever and ever. Okay, somebody's trying to steal your childlike wonder. You better do something about that. Just kidding, it's not a reading. Anyway, and this one here is an obvious. This one is the classic Rider-Waite-Smith, and the other deck, of course, that I will always pull out. What is with this energy? What is going on? Who's watching this doing some shady business, dude? Like, this is straight up third-party connection. Girl, boy, they, you better mind yourself. Goodness, because every single one of these decks is picking up that energy. Anyway, moving on, and there's our F-boy. So, you know, this is just the classic Rider-Waite-Smith. Not everybody's favorite, but you know what I mean, like This deck is obviously worn in, obviously used. This was probably the classic Rider-Waite-Smith was probably my 4th deck. Which, weird, right? But, you know, it is what it is. So, anyway, this is just a deck that I consider part of my collection for life. This one in particular will never go anywhere, will never be replaced. It doesn't matter how frayed, nasty, dirty it gets. This is always, always, always going to be part of my collection. And another disclaimer, if you hear that stupid ass car in the background, I have no idea how long he's going to be sitting there warming up his car that doesn't need to be warmed up for this long. But I'm sorry if it's intrusive to the video and I'm just being ranty and complaining, but it's really hard to live in an apartment and try to record YouTube videos and expect it ever to be actually quiet. So I'm doing my best over here, and I hope that you watch anyways. For the 5th deck, 6th, halfway through. We are over halfway through at this point. I've already gone through 5, so this is deck number 6. And this deck is the very first Oracle deck that I ever purchased. So this one is the Animal Spirit Oracle. I use this deck in 80% of my readings. I love pulling an animal to check in on the energy of the person, the animal energy around the person, and just the animal energy overall of the reading. And sometimes the reading has nothing to do with the card, and other times the reading just flows right with the card. But either way, the animal is impactful and it means something. I appreciate that it has not affirmations, but it has information on the bottom of the card, so you don't necessarily need a book, and all of the imagery is really, really pretty. I hate loud cards. I really hate loud cars. And that's not just recording, that's just in general. Like, I just don't understand the appeal of having a loud car. And I say that in the same sentence, I will tell you, I absolutely love the rumble of my Honda Fit. But it's not loud, it's just a purr, if you will. Sorry, I'm weird and I'm in love with my car, as I'm literally hating on cars. But if you can hear how horrible that sounds, like, come on, that's just, anyway. But the hum of a Honda Fit, I'll take it any day. Anyway, back onto the cards. Enough complaining about things I cannot change. These cards are really pretty, like I said. They have really impactful messages, and I just really enjoy checking in on the animal energy. I absolutely love, 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 love animals. This one here is one of my favorites. It is in the banner of my at Mysticjadestarotmancy channel, where I read all of these decks. Okay, I don't want to show all of them because we need to get moving on. I don't want this video to be forever long, but yes, this deck and I are very connected. We hang out all the time, and it is one that travels with me wherever I go. Goes to work with me almost every day. Just this deck and I are very, very in tune. The 7th deck is this one here. This is actually wrapped in a crochet tarot wrap that I got from my friend Daniela, who runs Curry Luna. She has a crochet business, and she also makes clay trinkets and just things like that. And I just really love this one. It's very long. You can do a spread out on it, and then the colors are just gorgeous. Just so absolutely so pretty. So this deck here is another one that most witches use, the Witch's Familiar Tarot. And this is a classic deck at this point. Like, if you are a tarot reader and don't have this deck, that would be a surprise. And if you don't consider it part of your main collection, that would also be a surprise. This is a very classic deck, like I said. I love the imagery on it. It is similar to the Rider-Waite-Smith, but not exactly. And it has women, men. I don't think it has much diversity though. Temperance, I love that she is in like a yoga pose, a meditative state. Every card on this one has a cat in it in some way. And yeah, this deck is not diverse at all. I haven't touched, I mean, I guess a little bit I haven't picked this one up in a while. It's kind of been sitting in the back of my tarot altar as I've been collecting more and more decks. However, I need to pull it out more often. I think the lack of diversity is one of the reasons why I don't pull it out very often. But this is a classic deck at this point, and yeah, I really should consider. Sorry, I don't even have the deck in frame. Pulling it out some more. It is really pretty. The imagery is really pretty, and the reason why it is part of my forever collection is because it is one of the first that I've got, and one of the first decks that I read for anybody in the community for my very, very, very first market back in October of 2023. I was not advertised as a reader yet. I was not reading for other people. I was barely still reading for myself. And that should have been foreshadowing for me, because actually, without even having had advertised it, I had done a reading at that market. And it was with this deck, and it was really impactful. And I still remember that young lady really well. And I didn't charge her for it. She was having a rough time and she needed answers. And I said, you know what, let me pull out my deck. And that was the beginning. But it still took me a while to feel comfortable really reading for other people outside of like my very close friends. But yeah, so this deck is what kind of helped push me towards reading for other people and towards reading for the community. And I just love that the artwork is really really pretty, and it really tells a story. Like, each card really has its own story in it. Like, you can really tell a story from each and every one of these cards, and that's really important in tarot and as a reader, you know. So I think that pulling this deck out for this video is a reminder that I need to use it some more, because it is just really pretty. Okay, moving on. Gosh, I really can't even remember the last time I used it. Sorry, I'm like shuffling every deck. This is my habit. Every time I pick up a deck, I have to shuffle it. It is just my absolute habit. So if I come across a deck that I have a hard time shuffling, aka the Modern Witch Tarot, if you've watched my other video, you already heard me rant on that. I promise I'm not really a ranty person. I don't know what's going on today. But yeah, if I come across a deck that I can't shuffle well, I get very disappointed. So yeah, because as you can see, every single deck I pick up, it ends up being shuffled at least once. Oh. Okay, so these next two decks, I'm actually going to do them together, 8 and 9. We're almost done here. These two decks are the Aesthetic Oracle by the Moody Tarot. She is a reader here on YouTube, and she reads specifically for Geminis, but that could be your sun, moon, or your rising. However, it doesn't matter. But I have been watching her for years at this point, and she has been a wonderful inspiration to me and really helped motivate me and see that I can do it for myself as well, and I can build a community here as well. However, like, incredibly huge honorable mentions to Jessica the Moody Tarot. She did design these two decks. She has several other decks over on the website that she hosts them through. They're like print on demand style decks, so they take a little bit, and the shipping is a little expensive. However, they are incredibly worth it. So these decks are comprised of solely images. These are just images, and you get, like, that's one of my favorites, Shurjan, Growth, Metamorphosis, like the transformation, Deserted, Breaking News. So their intention is for you to create your own intuitive message on each of them. There's no guidebook. There is no right or wrong answer. They just simply are as they are. There's another favorite card. There's a White Medicine Buffalo Woman. There's so many like different messages that you can get from these cards. And if you've seen my readings, and if you've got a reading from me in person, you definitely have had a reading from one of these decks. They're just really pretty, and they're really insightful, and I think my favorite word to say about a tarot deck at this point is that they're impactful. So I guess one of them gets used a little bit more than the other. This heart one, people are drawn to it a little bit more than the Gemini one. And I actually had to replace a card in this deck. I noticed that I hadn't seen a card, and I was like, what the heck? That's actually one of my favorite cards. Like, why haven't I seen it? And it was the green snake shedding its skin. And I went through my deck and I realized that, yeah, it was missing and I had to replace it, which was a bummer. I had to rebuy the entire deck for one card. Anyways, moving on. That was the second one she made. And this is the first version. So I hope they're showing up well. It's like the red string theory, healing wounds, getting engaged, going on a journey, stormy seas, roadblocks, the water lily, just so many. Another card of growth, an eclipse, ancestor energy, locked, zebra, unique. Like, there's just so many like messages in these cards that are just not anything that you would really expect to get some sort of intuitive hit from, yet it works. And they really help fine-tune the reading and add just an extra layer. This card has been chasing lately. They just really add an extra layer to the readings, and I love them. I absolutely love them. Money, money. Yeah, so these are my favorite decks. I use them in just about every single reading, especially if you get a reading from me in person. You will have, we will use one of these decks. The very first step in a reading with me in person is having you I ask you which deck you are most drawn to. And then that starts off the tone. But yeah, so this is the Aesthetic Oracle 1 and the Aesthetic Oracle 2. And I'll have them where you can get them linked in the description if you'd like to get them for yourself. I gotta shuffle them. I gotta show you the shuffle test. How beautiful they shuffle, how wonderful these cards are. I am, just like all of these decks, I am absolutely in love. These will never ever leave my collection, and they are like the foundation of my readings. And last but certainly not least, this is another newer deck in my collection. This is the Color Mage Oracle. This one is 108 cards, and every card is a different shade or color or like hue, if you will. And they have, every single one has a different message. My only complaint about this deck is that the quote-unquote guidebook is a separate book that they sell on Amazon, completely separate, or it's a PDF that you can download, but it's just a sheet that gives you like just a few words for each card. So I don't really care for that. However, I've been loving the intuitive hits that I've been getting from them anyways. I don't really need the book. A lot of them are pretty self-explanatory as it is, just in the energy of the color and in the words that they use, the name and the descriptors. But yeah, it's watermelon, mindfulness, just really pretty deck. I use this one also in just about every one of my readings now. It will be part of my collection absolutely forever, and I will always use it. Iris. The way that I like to use this one though is, instead of, sometimes especially for my readings on YouTube, I will shuffle out the piles before I start the reading. For this one in particular, I do them as a period on the question or section of each reading. So if the reading has three questions, then on question 1, once I finish answering it with the cards I pulled, then I pull out this and we get the color energy of it. And it has just been incredibly insightful and really like very confirming of the things that I am saying and the messages I've been trying to convey. This deck was not cheap. This is the most expensive deck in my collection. This deck was over $100. Don't tell my husband. Shh. But it has been worth every single cent. Every single cent. I absolutely Love this deck, and it's another one that I pick up on a daily basis. And there we have it. Those are the top 10 decks in my tarot collection at this time. I do have 100 decks, like I've mentioned before. I don't know if I mentioned it in this video. I do have over 100 decks, so I'm thinking that I will make this maybe a 2 or 3 part series, or maybe I'll even like go through all of my decks, like best to worst in a sense. We'll see. I am not sure. If I am going to do that series, this will be part 1, starting with the best. But the theme of this was decks for life. So that is what this video is my top 10 decks right now, and the top 10 decks that I will keep for life. These are my babies and my go-tos. And I thank you so much for sticking around. If you are still here, please leave a Joker card down in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all the things. As you can tell, I'm still a very, very, very small channel trying to get off my feet. And my growth really, really, really depends on your interaction. It's free to interact with my video, and the joy that I feel from your interaction is priceless, because every single interaction is a little piece of my growth, and I appreciate that very, very, very much. I'm doing what I can by posting for you all. Now, I would really appreciate if you would just show a little support my way. Okay, thanks friends. I hope to see you again, or to speak to you again in another video. Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.